Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another Monday night live stream. I hope everybody is well. I hope you all had a fantastic weekend. I know I did. For those that don't know, I would be chatting about in the Patreon group, Christian, who's our moderator in the chat, came to visit me at the weekend. So we had an excellent weekend. We played plenty of games. We went out for plenty of food as well. We even did a bit of axe throwing on Saturday afternoon. So yeah, it was a nice weekend for me. I hope all you lot had a fab weekend as well. The sun's still shining here as well. Had a little bit of rain this morning, but the sun's still shining, so it's keeping the smile on my face as well. I even went to the gym this morning, trying to start a kind of positive, mental, healthy attitude. So yes, I'm in a good mood today, folks. Let's have a look in the chat and see who we've got. Rob Gates said, first like. This was at like 2 minutes to 11 this morning. Hello, Rob. I doubt you're still around, mate. I can't imagine you've been hanging around all that time. Was that like 10 hours or something? But if you do see this, hello, mate, and thank you for that. Peter Nicholas says he doesn't know this one, so he's intrigued. For those that didn't see the title, we are going to be talking about Moonstone, the game tonight. You might just see the little box just to the side of me there. We'll be talking about what's the best way to get into Moonstone, what is Moonstone for those that don't know, and how does the game play, how do you play it. I'm going to teach you through a bit of a step-by-step kind of how the basic game works and give you an idea whether the kind of the mechanics of the game is something that might interest you. Marcus is saying, afternoon everyone. Let's try not to die so early this time. I don't know if you're confusing that with one of the fighting fantasy ones, mate. But hello, Connor. Good afternoon to you, sir. Nigel Jones says, afternoon, hobby hooligans and everyone else. Mark Wright, good evening to you, mate. Lord Maiden, how are you doing, mate? Ice Moon, good evening to you. Ortega says he can stay tonight and have some Moonstone ready to paint. Double whammy, mate, getting you live in the chat and painting some Moonstone. Couldn't be more apt, could it? Who else we got? Blizzards, have I said hello to you? Hello, Blizzards, mate, by the way. How are you doing? He's just got a fresh order of Malifaux stuff that he wasn't expecting until Friday. So he's going to be building a gremlin hamster wheel. I don't think I've seen that one, mate. Christian, the man himself, hello to you, sir. VG's heading out for his run, so he says he'll be listening when he gets back. So hello, VG, when you get back, mate. Dave Mackay, good evening to you, mate. Andrew Fairbanks, hello to you as well. He says he's back in the office now. How does it feel being back in the office after working home all the time? Paul McElroy as well says, evening all, looking forward to the chat tonight. I love Moonstone. I think, Paul, it was at one of the weekenders, mate. I think you were playing Moonstone. It might have been the first time I actually saw it being played, if I'm honest. Blizzard says he knows nothing about Moonstone, but more than happy to hear Andy talk about it and tempt me to buy it. I'm not a salesman, mate. I'm not here to sell you it. If you want it, I'm doing a service of trying to let you know about some excellent games that are probably a little bit lesser known, maybe don't get the love they deserve online. Not as much as kind of Warhammer does anyway these days. But if I don't make any money from selling them. I'm not a salesman. I don't work for these companies. They don't pay me to say these things. So yes, if you're influenced to buy it, then so be it, mate. But I'm not trying to sell it anyway. Ice Moon said, super interested in any info on the Marvel villain, unsure on the new logo. Yeah, I don't think it's the same Moonstone, mate. Tiberius Wallace, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. He said he's a miniature tart, so he's interested. I think you'll like these miniatures, mate. There's a real kind of there's a lot of character to these. If you like burros and badgers, as an example, and like that, not that these are animals, but if you like burros and badgers and that kind of the character that those have, if you like something a little bit more, this is like fantasy, but with a bit of a, I wouldn't say comedy, but a bit more of a fun twist on it. It's not kind of grimdark, if you like. Ghost Winters, good evening to you as well. Peter Nicholas is saying, Moonstone sounds interesting. Marcus is saying, I bet there will be werewolves. I'm not sure that they are werewolves. Actually, there is kind of a beast. So maybe there is a werewolf of such. Jeff Higgin, hello to you. Radek as well, saying, I hope I'm not convinced to buy into another minis game, but then again, I hope I am. Rob Gates is here. Hello, mate. How are you doing? He said, looking forward to this. The minis alone have sold Moonstone to me. I've got the 2-player starter set. I've built the minis. I've primed them ready to paint. That's as far as I've got with them at the minute. But I was super impressed with the quality of the resin. Really, really nice. I'll show you some sort of photographs as we go on tonight, and we'll have a look on the website later on just so you can kind of see the range of minis they do. But yeah, they're really nicely sculpted. Stu Hayes, hello to you as well, fella. That just jumped off the top of my screen there as well. Let's go back. Yeah, Radek saying, by the way, Moonstone is forever taken as a title for the splendid Amiga game. I remember that as well, man. And it's one of the things with Moonstone, when you search for it on YouTube, you have to put Moonstone the game. Otherwise, you get some Moonstone stuff from Marvel. You get some Moonstone stuff about like kind of like gems and stuff like that. So you're searching for this. Search for Moonstone the game. Yo comes in as well, says his brother's been looking at this game for a while, so it'll be interesting stream. The minis look awesome. I'm glad some of you already kind of are aware of it, but maybe don't know much about the game. So that gives me the opportunity to at least like tell you how the game plays, because there's some very unique mechanics in this game that I don't think you see in any other game. And the amount of minis that you need to play it is only a few, so it's quite accessible as well. Busey's in as well. Hello to you. Hello Tolmart as well. Nice to see you, lad. Anna's in as well from Red Rose Wargaming. Says good evening. You're a little bit more buff tonight for some reason. Do you know what it is? I think it is just relaxation, a little bit of suntan, feeling good. I think that's all it is. I don't think I've suddenly beefed up, not after one day in the gym. Barry Kleiber, hello to you, sir. Josh Price, good evening. Marcus said it's freaking hot here, 100 degrees here. We're not quite that much. Chris Gilboy says safe. Colin Wakeling, good evening to you. Ryan, hello, nice to see you in, mate. Mark Corley, hey up to you as well. Tony Howell says, hello, my lovelies. How are you doing, mate? Hope you're feeling a little bit more like yourself today. No doubt we'll have a bit of chat in the Discord later on afterwards. Flip Movie Maker, hello to you. Nostock again's in. Marcus said he thought we were doing Fighting Fantasy. I thought that might be the case. Spunky Tars says, why are you buggers? Blimey, it's hot tonight. Busey said, is there terrain to print for this? Of course there is, mate. It's a kind of, I tell you what would be perfect. That fantasy terrain that I was showing off on last week's 3D printing stream would be perfect for this. Tony Howell says, isn't a peddler just here to broaden horizons? Exactly. Phil Campbell, hello to you, mate. Hello Andy Smith as well. Christian sharing a link there to the website. Don't all rush off, stay on the stream, we'll talk about it. Michael Cowan, good evening. Bobby Clark says he's painted a few Moonstone models. Been nice to find out a bit about the gameplay. There you go, mate. I wouldn't mind seeing a picture, mate, of the ones that you've been painting. Kenneth Paulson, good evening to you as well. Ghost Winter says, all the Moonstone minis pre-assembled or sprues? They're resin minis, mate, so they come on like the little kind of sort of clip-off sprues that you get, really. But they're not too bad to assemble. They don't come in like sort of like loads of different parts, or certainly not the ones that I've experienced. Tony says Moonstone definitely has more of a fairy tale Jim Henson vibe. It's one of the things I find charming about the minis. Yeah, I kind of mentioned that when in my big presentation thing, but we'll come to that soon. Warwick is in as well. He said if I had room for more new games, I'd have done so by now. I need to get rid of my unused 40k and Warmer Horde stuff. Yeah, that's it. Make a bit of space for it, mate. Sell some stuff off. Get a little bit of hobby cash in them and replace them, mate. And Tasty Brain Drainers in as well. Hello to you. So, how we doing chat-wise? We've got a nice little number in. I think I'll give it another couple of minutes. We'll see it by 10 past, and then I'll make a start on the main topic for tonight, which obviously is Moonstone. As always, folks, if you've got any questions while I'm kind of... Because I've done a lot of research. I've put a lot of work into tonight to try and sort of both explain it to you in a succinct fashion, but also demonstrate it visually as well, so you can kind of get an idea about the game. So I'm going to be looking at the kind of presentation thing that I'm going through as we're chatting. If you do have any questions, just put at BlackJack Legacy, and I'll come back to them and catch up with them after I've done the kind of the main spiel and stuff like that. Tasty Brain Drain says Jim Henson vibe. Well, I'm almost sold on it already. Yes, and Ortega saying he finds Moonstone very Terry Pratchett style. I would say Terry Pratchett, Jim Henson. There's like that. Oh, there's another one as well. We'll come on to it when I talk about it, because I've put some notes and stuff in the thing. Andy Smith says 23 likes. 23 likes. Come on, folks. We've got 76 people in the chat. I'm sure a few more of you can drop a like on this and spread the YouTube love around the world. James Bray, good evening to you, mate. Hope you are well. We were just talking about you at the weekend, actually, and about your beer festival. Maybe if it goes ahead again, maybe I should make the trip south for it. And Tony says, yeah, they're very, very fun. Nice one. There's the likes climb up a little bit. 77 viewers, 36 likes. It's going the right way. Thank you very much, folks. So let me get right, I think we're back now. For some reason, I'll wait. Let me know. Give me the thumbs up when you're back. Give me the thumbs up when you're back on. I don't know how far behind anyone is or anything like that. I'm glad I wasn't doing the whole thing. Yeah, I can see. For some reason, it just decided to take a dip. Right, there we go. Yes, we're back. Yes. Everybody give me the thumbs. This advertising the mystery of Moonstone. Right, I'm glad I wasn't kind of halfway through the presentation thing there anyway. So yes, we're back. We've got a few people dropped out there. Oh, there we go. There's the views plummeting there as people just thought, oh, it's off. Yeah. Such is life. Yes, you're right, mate. This is life. Scott says, evening axe throw. Yeah, it was good. It was a good laugh, mate. I enjoyed it. So yeah, unfortunately we lost a few viewers there, but it looks like they're coming back. I think they all went and refreshed or something like that. So I'll give it a minute or so before they catch up. And Tolmart saying there as well, if you don't come back soon, I'll call the police. Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's back. It's streaming at full strength at this end, so at some point it should kind of it should refresh itself and catch up. Yeah, that seems like it's coming back now. Yeah, it looks like we're all right. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to switch this off. It looks like we're all right. So YouTube giving bandwidth to Valric, giving him a little bit of health love, eh? To be fair to the lad. James says, do you record locally? So what I tend to do, mate, is it's just streaming direct. I don't record it at all. And then what I do is when I'm doing the little bits, the clips for the Tuesday video, I record it as well. But I haven't pressed anything yet. That's not what the issue is. So right, what I am going to do though is I'm going to start that now. And then what we'll do is, if I can get this bit up, this should be okay now. Let me check this bit's working. Yeah, this bit's working now as well. So we'll make a start here. So I do have the chat just to the side here as well. Yeah, since you record the clips. Yeah, that's it. I mean, it hasn't stopped streaming on the computer side of things. Yeah. Anyway, tonight, folks, we are going to be taking a look at Moonstone, the game, which is by Goblin King Games. It is a kind of I think the word is a whimsical fantasy skirmish game. Doesn't use a lot of miniatures. It's for 2 to 4 players, which makes it a little bit interesting, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you the easiest ways to get into the game, what you need to play the game, and how the basic rules work. I'm not going to go into the far end of all the bits of advanced stuff and different things and pieces, but I'll give you enough information so that you can decide if this is a game you want to take a further look at. And currently, as we speak now, if you're watching this live or in the next couple of days, there is a Kickstarter that is live at the minute, which is funding an expansion to this game as well. It's already funded. They smashed through the funding target in about the first 10 minutes or something. But I'll link you to that at the end of this little clip as well. So without further ado, let's crack on and let me tell you a bit about Moonstone. So Moonstone, as I said, is a character-driven fantasy skirmish game for 2 to 4 players, and it is set in the mysterious world of a place called Tauba. Now, alongside the human population, Tauba is inhabited by mischievous fairies, trickster goblins, gruff gnomes, revolting trolls, and stoic giants, just to name but a few of the different incredible folks that occupy this place. Now, the most precious, I should say, resource known to the inhabitants of Tauba are something called moonstones, hence where the game gets its name from. And these are so called because they emerge from the ground kind of unpredictably during the night, only to be dissolved when the sun comes up the next morning. So an enterprising leader can earn a king's ransom by quickly rooting up these moonstones before the break of dawn, and then trading them with the wizards of the Wizards Guild in the capital. You play Moonstone by assembling a troop of adventurers to collect these moonstones. However, word spreads quickly that these moonstones have arrived, and you may not be the only one with their eyes on these moonstones. And sadly, a bloody conflict is inevitable. So, what do you need to play? Well, as I said before, it is a game for 2 to 4 players, so you need 2 to 4 players to play. And interestingly, it's not just a kind of like an afterthought to have 3 or 4 players. Having 3 or 4 players is actually built into the rules as well. And basically everybody is kind of playing against each other as individual little troops trying to get these moonstones. And the rules are worded really well to sort of adapt to multiple players. So if you're looking for a relatively fast sort of game to play with more than 2 people, this might be something worth checking out. So yeah, you'll need players and they'll need a collection of Moonstone characters. Now, it's recommended for a game that lasts about 90 minutes to 2 hours. You use 6 characters for each person playing a 2-player game. If you want to play a 3-player game, you actually bring down the number of characters you're using. So each person in a 3-player game, would use 4 characters, and in a 4-player game, each person would use 3 characters. And this keeps the overall game length kind of the same. And it also means that you don't need a lot of miniatures to actually buy into this game. There's a really nice 2-player starter set, and this comes with a total of 8 characters in the box. This is it here, just so you can kind of see the size of it as well. So in this box there is 8 characters, and using 4 of each of those, let me just pop that down, is a great way to get started and probably play a kind of a smaller, faster game just to get your head around the rules. And should you like it, you can then go and grow your factions. You will need a 3-foot by 3-foot playing area, so that's what this game plays on. Nice size, not too big, but not too small as well. You need a copy of the rules. There's a copy of the rules comes in this 2-player starter set. There's also a free copy of the rules available on Goblin King Games website, and I'll show you that later on as well. And those rules are completely identical to what comes in this box. There's also a hardback set of rules as well, which has more missions and different bits and pieces in there. Has lots and lots of background sort of fluff and stories as well, which is beautifully written. So if you are into that kind of stuff, the hardback book is also a must buy. But if you just want the basic rules, they're either free online or they're available inside that box. You need something called an Arcane deck. There are 21 cards in an Arcane deck, and this is what is used for kind of ranged combat, sort of magical combat. Again, you can download these and print them out for free on their website, or there's a set inside that 2-player starter box as well, or you can buy them separately online. There's an 18-card combat pack as well that you need for doing melee combat. Again, it's inside the 2-player starter set. Again, it's free to download and print off online if you just want to give the game a try, and you can buy it separately as well. You'll need a pile of blue energy tokens. Of course, you can use anything you want, but there are a pile of blue energy tokens comes in that 2-player starter set. You need 7 D4 dice. These are what will be used as your moonstones. They don't actually play these dice sort of for any actions in the game. You actually sort of roll these onto the table, and these are your moonstones. If you're playing with just the starter box, you actually get 7 dice in there. But if you're playing with that kind of 4 models per side, you'll probably just use 5 of them for a smaller game. You need 1 D6 dice for each player that's playing. This is just for initiative at the start of each turn. So you'll also need a tape measure or some kind of measuring instrument. You actually get like a measuring widget inside the box as well, the 2-player starter set. So actually, when I was saying before about what's the best way to start this, if you like the miniatures that are in the 2-player starter set, and I'm going to show you what they look like next, the 2-player starter box is fantastic value. You get enough stuff in there for 2 players, all of the card decks, all of the dice, the measuring stuff, the tokens, everything you need. If for example, you're not that keen on those particular factions, you could just kind of, the rules are free online, just pick up the card packs and pick up a few miniatures from each of the factions that you like the look of. But those are really, it's quite a simple way to get in the game. I'll show you how to build your warbands because it's really, really simple, and it is definitely a case of really kind of just buying the miniatures you like the look of. So So as you can see here, these are the 8 miniatures that you get in the starter box, and I'm sure the miniatures are what will attract a lot of you to this game. These miniatures have bags of character, and there is one from each. There are 3 factions in the game, and in the starter box there is the humans from the Commonwealth, and the I forget the name now, the goblins and stuff from Dominion. But yeah, they're a 32mm scale, so for all they're quite small because they're goblins, they're actually quite, like the human size ones are a little bit bigger. They're made of resin, and they come with those round-lipped bases. However, these ones in the photograph, I've just 3D printed my own, so the bases that's on this picture, it doesn't come with those ones. They've definitely got like a very, as I said before, kind of like a whimsical fantasy. And we were just talking in the chat there earlier, kind of Jim Henson, Labyrinth, Terry Pratchett, that kind of feel to the game. Now, the only restriction to building your troop or your warband or your crew, whatever you want to call them, is the number of characters and the faction that you want to play. So, for example, you choose your faction. You either choose Dominion, Commonwealth, and I forget the name of the third one, but it's on another slide, so we'll talk about that one in a bit. It's got a funny name that I can't remember. So you choose the faction that you want, and then you choose, let's say you're playing a 2-player game with 6 models each. You just choose the 6 models that you like the look of from that faction. There's no points costs to any of the miniatures. The balancing is done by a number of different things, so you just pick any 6 miniatures from that faction that you like the look of. There's no list building, there's nothing about kind of sort of keyword interaction that you necessarily have to worry about too much. It's just pretty simple, just rule of cool wins, just buy the minis you like the look of. So yeah, we'll look on the website later on, but just to give you an idea of the kind of things that's available, but this should give you an idea of some of the flavour of the game. Now, each character has its own stat card, so this is kind of what you need to know when you're playing the game, and this is what it looks like. So at the top here we have the name of the character. At the top you can see Baron von Fancy Hat. If that name doesn't give you a kind of a feel for what the game's like, nothing will. Below that there are a couple of keywords. Now this is the character's race, where it is human, and also there are other attributes there as well. This one says noble. And they don't really have any direct effect on the miniature, but they are referenced by certain rules or abilities during the game. In the top right, we can see that the faction symbol. So here, where there is a sun, this represents the Commonwealth. If there was a moon there, it would represent the Dominion faction, and if there was a stag's head there, it would represent the Leschervolt, I think it is, that's the one I couldn't remember, Leschervolt faction. And some cards can have a combination of a couple of symbols on there, where models are available for either faction or for a couple of factions. Next, on the left there as well, you can see we have the melee stat and the melee range. The melee stat is how many combat cards the character draws when fighting a round of melee combat, and the range is the maximum range in inches that the enemy must be to be declared a target of a melee attack. We'll talk about combat and stuff later on. Next, on the right hand side of that is their Arcane stat and their Evade stat. Arcane is how many Arcane cards the character draws when using one of their Arcane abilities. This is kind of like magic and weapons and things. It tends to be more the ranged stuff. And Evade represents how difficult the miniature is, or the model is, for an enemy to be hit with a ranged attack. So this modifies the number of Arcane cards that your opponent will be drawing. So for example, it's 0 here, so there's no modification. If your opponent was trying to hit you from range, and this said like -1, for example, they would draw 1 less card, which would just kind of show that you're a bit harder to hit. Under the stats, you can see that we have the abilities of the character, and these are split up into 3 sections. You can see the little lines between them. In fact, if I just bring up my laser pointer thing here, I'm sure you can see that. You can see here at the top, these are the active abilities, and active abilities are stuff that you can take. These are the passive abilities. Passive abilities are basically always on. For example, you can see here, plate armor reduces all non-magical damage suffered by -2. So it doesn't matter whether it's your activation or somebody else is activating and they're attacking you. These passive abilities happen all the time. Underneath that, in the middle here, we have active abilities, and active abilities are stuff that you can take during your action by spending the amount of energy which is written in brackets. So for example, where we've got reload here and shoot your pistol, there's a number 2 in brackets. This would cost 2 energy points to use this ability. And then at the bottom here, we have Arcane abilities. These are special abilities which can be taken as actions, again, by discarding the amount of energy that's in the brackets. So this shoot pistol here uses 1 energy to activate it. And Arcane abilities, you basically draw the number of Arcane cards according to your Arcane stat here. And again, we'll cover that later on. Along the bottom here, we have the health boxes. So here we can see that Baron has 7 health points, and as you take damage, you mark them off starting at the right and working your way down until you have none left. You'll also see here that you have a couple of blue sort of circles filled in. This is for a couple of reasons. The first one is how many blue dots there are is how many blue energy points you start each turn with. And also as you start to kind of take damage. So for example, if you take 4 points of damage, you'd fill in those 4, and then the next turn you'd only be able to get 1 point of energy because you've lost the ability to have that one. So it shows as your model's getting weaker that it's harder for them to generate energy. And then lastly here in the bottom right hand side, you can see the base size of the model here. This one is a 30mm base. So how do you play the game? What do? You set up your 3x3 table and you place some terrain on it so that it looks nice, and try not to put kind of big pieces of terrain right in the center of the board. That'll become clear now. So the next thing you do is you grow your moonstones. So one player takes the 7d4 dice, holds them in their fist, and basically drops them into the center of the board from above, from a height of about 12 or 18 inches, just to kind of give them a little bit of scatter. And each one of these d4 dice represents the location of a moonstone. And the number that is on top of the d4 shows you just how deep the roots of that moonstone is. So for example, if it was a 4 on the top, it would mean that it would need to be kind of dug up 4 times in order to release that moonstone and kind of take it for yourself. If you're not happy with how they've fallen, maybe they've kind of fallen to one side of the board and you're not too happy about it, each player gets the option of 1 mulligan to pick them up and scatter them again. So you start by each player rolls a d6, and the highest roll chooses if they want to be the early bird who arrives to the moonstone site first, or to have the initiative. Now the early bird gets to choose their table edge, which might be quite sort of important depending upon how the moonstones have scattered. So then they place one of their models on the board. And then basically your opponent places one of their models, and you alternate backwards and forwards until all of the models have been deployed. So the person who chooses or who gets initiative also gets a little bit of a benefit each turn. So in turn 1, you get to choose who goes first. So just because you have initiative doesn't mean you have to go first. In turn 2, when you roll off again, you add +2 to your initiative roll, which gives you a better chance of again deciding who gets to go first. Maybe there's a person there that you want to kind of take down before they dig up a moonstone or something like that. In turn 3, you add 1 to your roll, and then in turn 4, it's a straight roll off. Now the aim of the game is to be the player with the most moonstones in your possession at the end of turn 4. And if there's a tie, you basically play a sudden death game, and if at any point in that sudden death round one of you has more moonstones than the other, you're declared the winner and the game is over. And if your character is carrying a moonstone when they die, they basically drop the moonstones, so you have to have your model alive and holding the moonstones at the end of the game. And that's basically what the game is about. Now the game is played over 4 turns, as I said, and each turn is broken down into 3 really simple steps. There's the replenish step, which basically you place 1 blue energy token on each character's card for each blue dot remaining in your health bar, as I mentioned before. So that's how you kind of replenish all of the energy points to allow you to do things during your turn. The next step is the activation step, and during the activation step, basically the first player chooses a character to activate. you can do as many actions as you want during your turn, assuming 1, you have enough energy points to do them, and 2, if you have any 0-point actions, you can only do them once per turn. But if you have lots of energy on your character for whatever reason, you can do as much stuff as you want. So it's not a case of, well, I get 2 actions. You can do as many as you want with the energy you have. Once your character can do no more actions, your opponent takes a turn and activates one of their characters. And again, it's just alternating actions backwards and forwards. You go, I go. Once all of the characters have activated, we come to the discard step. And basically in the discard step, we take away any energy points that are left unused. Nothing carries over to the next round. We take them all away. And then basically we go back to the start of the replenish step for the next turn. It's that simple. Now, when you're activating a model, as I said before, you can do as many actions as you want. There are some universal actions which are sort of available to all characters, and you can see them here on this card. So jog is basically your movement action. It's a 0 cost. It allows you to move up to 4 inches. So remember, 0 cost actions, you can only do one. So you can only move 4 inches per turn with that, and that's the same for everybody unless they have any special abilities. You can't disengage from an enemy with this, and you can't move through kind of water or wooded terrain either. And the only change to this is if you're carrying a Moonstone, they're quite awkward and quite sort of heavy to carry, so your jog movement goes down to 2 inches when you're carrying a Moonstone. The next one is called Step. This costs 1 energy point, and it allows you to move up to 1 inch with no restrictions on movement. So you can use this to kind of disengage from an enemy, to move through kind of heavy terrain and stuff, but it does cost you 1 energy point to do it. You can Traverse, which costs 2 energy points, and it lets you move over a 1 inch thick obstacle. You can do something called Harvest, and this is where I mentioned before about how you can dig up the Moonstones. So this costs 1 point. And so, for example, if the Moonstone has 2 on the top of it, like on the D4, you can spend 1 point, and then you basically pick up the D4 and turn it so that 1 is at the top of it. You could then spend another energy point, and if it's at 1 at the top, that basically frees the Moonstone from the ground, and you are now carrying it. So the deeper the Moonstone is, the more energy points you need to use to harvest it and bring it up. And that's basically kind of how you capture the Moonstones. And then you have all of your active abilities, your melee attacks, and your arcane abilities, which are all the different things that are on your cards, and they're different for each character. Now, you don't need to spend all of your energy during your activation. As I said before, it all disappears at the end of a round if you haven't used it, but you don't have to use it all up during your during your activation, because there's something called a reaction step. So after your opponent completes an action with one of their models, you can declare a reaction step. And this means you can sort of, if for example, one of your opponents moves into kind of sort of melee range, you can use this reaction step to kind of move away an inch. If maybe one of your opponents moves kind of out from behind of cover and is getting ready to have a ranged attack on you, you could use this 1 reaction step to move sort of off to the right and into cover. So it costs 1 energy. It means you can move 1 inch, and only one model can make this reaction step for every kind of opponent's action. So you couldn't, for example, move sort of 2 models and use 2 energy, or you couldn't use 2 energy and move 2 inches. This is just if your opponent makes 1 action, you can use 1 reaction step. So it's just like a nice little kind of tricky thing that you can do. So next up, we've got the Arcane deck. So if you're going to kind of create some magic, how do you spend magic? And this is one of the unique things with Moonstone. It's very different from anything else I've played. This Arcane deck consists of 21 Arcane cards. And as you can see here in the image, there are some cards which have 1 value. So there are 3 1s, there are 2 2s, and there is 1 3. So these 6 cards are replicated across 3 different colours, which you can see here, blue, green, and a pinky purple. And this makes up a deck of 18 cards. And then the last 3 cards to make it up to the deck of 21 are called catastrophe cards, which can cause arcane abilities to kind of go seriously wrong. They're almost, if you think of Malifaux with the red Joker, with the black Joker, sorry, they're very much that kind of thing. So how do we play these to use these arcane abilities, and what makes it so special? So we can see Flintlock here, who is one of the human characters, and we can see he's got an arcane ability called Shoot Musket, which is here in this red box. Now it costs 1 energy to use, and it has a range of 12 inches. So we can see his arcane stat, also in the box here, is 3. So then we would look at our enemy's card and check what their evade stat is. Some will be harder to hit, as I mentioned before, and will have a minus number. Some will be big and cumbersome and slow and will be easier to hit, so they'll have a plus number. And so basically we either add or subtract from his arcane number here, and then that's how many cards you draw. So let's assume that our opponent has an evade of 0, so he would draw 3 cards from the arcane deck. Now the person that you're going to attack with this shoot musket action, they now need to resist the attack, and what they do is they draw 6 cards from the same arcane deck. So there's only 1 arcane deck used in the game by both players. So as you can see as well, arcane abilities have a little coloured X card here, or potentially might have a number 3 in it, and this is in order to get the effect that you want to do, you must declare a card of that colour when you play it from those cards that you've just picked up. So and the X means you can use any number you like. The enemy character now has to resist it, so as I said, they draw the 6 cards. So we'll have a look at the cards that they've drawn. So as you can see at the top here, Flintlock has drawn 3 cards, a pink 2, a blue 1 and a green 2, and the enemy has drawn a number of cards there too. So we can see Flintlock's got that green card that he needs for his arcane ability to trigger with the value of 2. But this is now quite clever. This is a bit of a bluffing game now. So even if you didn't have a green card, it's not the end of it. The enemy's got a green number 3 here, and as we know, there's only 1 green 3 in the deck, so he knows for a fact that Flintlock can't have a green 3 card. So this is a little bit about why it's really important that you know that there's only 1 deck, because there's understanding about what I've got in my hand means you haven't got them in yours. So the Flintlock player can choose to declare any card, even ones that they don't have in their hand, and they place a card face down and tell their opponent what card they're playing. Now they can sort of tell the truth and tell them exactly what they're playing, or they can completely lie and bluff their way out of it and just make something up. So in this case, Flintlock's going to tell the player that he's playing the green 2. He's going to tell the truth and play that card. Now the enemy player gets to resist this attack by deciding if they believe Flintlock is telling the truth or not. So they can say, yeah, okay, I believe you, I think. So for example, if Flintlock is saying, I'm playing a green 2, the enemy's saying, well, I know he hasn't got a 3 because I know it's not a 3 because I've got the 3. It is possible he's got the 2. So I'll say, okay. And if they agree with it, then basically that card never gets turned over. The enemy never gets to find out whether they were telling the truth or not. And then the arcane ability is triggered. And in this instance, it would mean that there was X plus 2 damage, X being the number on the card. So this will be a total of 4 damage. Now the enemy could, for example, they could say, actually, no, I think you're bluffing. I think you're telling lies. So if they do this, they flip the card over and reveal that card. Now if Flintlock in this case was telling the truth, and the enemy has called them out on it, the ability is resolved as normal, doing the normal amount of damage, but they get to do that action again for free without spending any energy points, using the cards that they both still have in their hands. Now if, on the other hand, if Flintlock had been lying, if he'd said he was playing a green 2 and he actually played sort of like a pink 1 or something like that, what happens then is the enemy gets to play one of the cards from their hand, the 6 cards that they've picked up, in place of the one that Flintlock had played. And this is where those catastrophe cards can come in. If the enemy has picked up their 6 cards and one of the cards in their hand is a catastrophe card, they can play it in place of what Flintlock had played, cause the catastrophe which causes bad things to happen. I think if I remember right in this one, if we flick back to one, I think basically it says here, the catastrophe, this model suffers 2 wounds and the reload ability cannot be used for the remainder of the game, which is pretty huge. So that makes it really interesting. What happens is once this has all been done, all of the cards go back into the deck, they get shuffled and they're there again for the next turn. So there's no dice used in combat. So I think that's really interesting. So how do we do melee attacks, for instance? Here we use the other deck, which is the combat cards, or the combat deck. So in order to attack in melee, you need to be in range. So we can see here, we've got range 2 inches for Baron von Fancy Hat. As long as you are within 2 inches of your opponent, you can have a melee attack. And you spend 1 energy to make a melee action. And then Baron player draws 5 cards from the combat deck. And the reason he draws 5 cards is because he has a melee stat of 5. And the enemy player draws the number of cards that they have from the same deck again, equal to their melee stat. So let's assume the enemy has a melee stat of 4 and they're going to draw 4 cards. Now these are the cards that are in the combat attack. And these basically are a little bit like a fancy game of rock, paper, scissors. The combat deck's made up of 18 cards. There's 3 each of the 6 different cards that are shown here. And that basically the cards with a bit of a blue tint are more defensive moves. And the cards with the red tint or the orangey tint, they are more attacking moves. Both players in the melee can cause damage to each other, so think of it like a sword fight. Just because I'm attacking you doesn't mean you couldn't try and sort of attack back at me. However, they both need to be in range of each other. So if one has a range of 3 for melee attacks and the other one only has a 1-inch range and they're 2 inches apart, then only one of them is actually going to be able to cause any damage. So in that case, it's wise to use one of the defensive cards. So here we can see at the top left, Baron's drawn 5 cards. He's drawn a card called Thrust, one called Sweep and Cut, one called Low Guard, and then he's drawn 2 of Falling Swing. And drawing more than one of the same, remember there's 3 of each of those cards in the deck, drawing more than one of them can be a good thing. So he chooses to play a Falling Swing face down. And the enemy is out of range here, as I mentioned, the ranges are a bit different. So he plays High Guard, which is face down, which is one of the more defensive ones. Now at this point, both players flip the cards over and reveal them to each other and compare them. So we can see here comparing them. You basically start with the Baron's card. So he's played Falling Swing and his opponent has played High Guard. So we look down this list and High Guard deals no damage at all. So that basically means that your opponent has basically sort of put up a High Guard as he was coming down with a Falling Swing and he's managed to defend it. If, for example, the opponent had played Sweep and Cut, it would have taken 3 damage instead. Now some of these numbers have 0 beside them. That means they would cause no damage, but if you have any modifiers because of your abilities, you can still modify a 0 number. So if you had +2 to your attack and you had a 0, you would still get 2 damage. However, this one here that we've taken, which is the circle with a line through it, you cannot modify that. That is just a flat 0. And as I said before, the Baron had 2 of these Falling Swing cards. At this point, you would play the other one or the other 2 if you had to, and if a damage had gone through, this would increase the amount of damage. And this is basically as if you've got like a kind of a critical strike, and that's how that's basically how melee attacks work. So it's quite interesting that none of the combat in the game is dealt with dice. It's all done with basically card mechanics, bluffing mechanic, secret information, which just makes it quite unique. And that really is the basics of the game. There's some more advanced rules, like you can do some special signature moves after a melee attack, you can do some follow-up attacks, and there's also something, and there's cards in the box called event cards and agenda cards, and these are optional, you don't have to use them, and they can add some kind of variety to your games once you kind of get your head around it. They can have special buffs or basically special events that happen and cause sort of different things. Now, as I said before, at the moment, Goblin King Games have got a Kickstarter which is live and it runs until Tuesday, June the 15th. So you've got about a week to get involved in it. And this is called Moonstone The Arising. And it brings the first major expansion book to the game. The expansion also includes a campaign system, which isn't available in the current book, and it also comes, I should say, with upgrade cards. So you get different weapon upgrades, different things for your characters, which helps them progress through the different campaigns as well. So it's worth going to check that out. Now, what I'll do is I will very quickly, if I can just get the stuff up in front of me here. I will show you their website, and basically, if I can flick across to the right one, there we go. Oh, actually, no, let me flick back to that one again. In fact, let me go to this one while we change it over, because I need to shut down the slides first, otherwise they don't disappear. And then obviously, I'm going to be clipping this one, out. There we go. We'll have a quick look on their website. So, yeah, moonstonethegame.com is the website that you're looking for. And there's a little bit of information about the game here. If you go to visit the store and shop now, the full range of everything they sell is here. And what you'll notice is you can buy single miniatures. You can buy by the goblins. You can buy by the Commonwealth humans. You can buy by the Leshervult spirits and cultists. There's gnomes, fairies, fauns, giants, and trolls. There's also a gameplay essentials as well. So if you're looking for the starter box, gameplay essentials, is where you'll find this. Here's the 2-player starter set. I'm not sure if there's images of what's inside. Oh, here there is. So you get, this is Baron von Fancy Hat we were talking about. There's Eric the Squire, Flintlock, and Friar Flevius, which are their 4 humans. And then from the other side, we've got Doug the Flatulent. We've got Beaky Bobby, we've got Vicious Midget, and Grub. You also get the Moonstone rulebook, which is paperback. You get all the card decks I've been talking about, some blue tokens, and all the dice you need, plus a nice little Moonstone branded measuring stick. So if you're just getting started in the game, this is a great way to get started. Now, if your friend already has all that stuff, and maybe you just want to pick up some bits and pieces yourself, you can buy the decks, the widgets and the tokens separately as well in the little dice packs. Here we have the really nice hardback book as well. So if you want to have a bit more background, some nice artwork and stuff as well. And it also has, 7 alternate scenarios as well, and 30 character profiles. So yeah, that's an option too. You can also, as I said before, you can just buy, so if I pick this, you can just buy them by the faction. So here is a box called The Cursed. These are from the, whatever it's called, what's it called, Lashvolt or something it was called, I forget the name again now. You can see here in the bottom where it's got this kind of stag's head thing, but it's also got this moon symbol as well, which means they can be used in any one of those 2 factions. And this has the Beast in it, the Revenant, which I think is potentially my favourite model if I'm honest, Anya Bartle, and it also has Striga Anya. So, and then here below it will show you all of the different cards as well. So as I said before, you can basically just pick and choose the models that you like the look of. You can just go in and say, well, let's have a look in here. I really like the look of these models. These ones have that stag's head on them again. So they're from that Leshervult faction. So if I'm playing the Leshervult faction, I can have these models. And again, as I said before, you only need 6 models really to play a game. So you can kind of just pick and choose the ones you like. Let's have a look at some of the giants and the trolls, for example. So here we have Lubard, who again it can be for the Leshervult and for the Commonwealth. So he can be used in either one. And here's his card here as well. Again, I quite like that model as well. I almost used that image for the thumbnail tonight. And so basically you can just kind of go through the range of these miniatures, see which ones you like the look of. He's one of the trolls, for example. This one's very much got that, I forget what he's called now, but the big beastie, kind of like from Labyrinth. What's he called? I can't remember his name, but it's definitely got that kind of that feel about it. But yeah, he's called Boulder. We'll have a look at another couple. We've got like Brizzlenose the troll. This one looks very much kind of like a river troll type thing. Really nice again. And yeah, and for quality wise, the sculpts are fantastic. So really, if I can just go back to here, that's Moonstone in a box, really. It's you can buy that 2-player starter set. The rules are relatively simple, really. I don't know how well that came across in my explanation, but they really are simple. You're essentially if you're doing your arcane stuff, there's a bit of a bluffing mechanic, trying to kind of outwit your opponent. And if you're doing your combat mechanic, it's a little bit like a fancy rock paper scissors. It's not difficult to do. It's probably more difficult to explain than it is to actually play. There's some fantastic playthroughs online at the minute. I think Tom from TNG Productions, to give him his due, he's done a really good job. He's just done a playthrough of it. So if you are interested in seeing how the game plays, I would recommend you go and check out his video. But if you've got any questions, please do put them down in the comments for this video. I'll pop a link as well in the description so you can have a link over to the Kickstarter. In fact, I'll very quickly just show you the Kickstarter here as well. As you can see, it had a £6,000 goal. It's now at £35,000, so I think we can safely say it's been funded. And if you get in, here is Tom's actual how to play, which I'd recommend. If you buy in at the core pledge level, which is £60, you get the new expansion book, a limited edition exclusive miniature, and the campaign cards as well, which I think has... I forget how many cards is in it. It does tell you somewhere here. The card deck has 106 cards in it, and basically it's primarily designed to support campaign play. It can be equally used to add variety and spice to your casual games. And then basically here is the miniature as well that you get. If you're just getting started and you want to buy some extras, there's a few more like new player levels as well. So for example, here's a new player level which gets you the stuff from the new expansion plus the original rule book in hardback, plus this 2-player starter set that I have here as well. And then obviously you can start to spend a bit more money, start picking and choosing different factions, all the way up to this top level for £650, which gets you all of the new stuff from the Kickstarter, but also gets you one of everything that they produce. So yeah, if you've got money burning a hole in your pocket and you just decided, yeah, I want to get into this game, you can go and spend it all in this big chunk. So as I say, yeah, any questions, pop them down in the comments. If I can't answer them, I'm sure I can find out for you and get something or point you in the right direction. Let me know what you think of Moonstone. Do the miniatures look like something that you'd be interested in? Do the rules sound quite simple and actually quite fun to play? And I think the fact that you only really maximum need 6 models to play it at a bigger size, it's really accessible and means that you can take a little bit of time painting the minis for this game. So yeah, thanks for watching this one. Right, folks. Let's go back here. That was there. I need a drink now. Let's go back and have a look at the chat and see what people have been talking about. Lord Maidenson, I hope you say about the other side of the card. Yeah, we were talking about this. So I haven't mentioned about the other side of the card because basically that's just it's a little bit more expanded. But on the other side of the character card, there is basically you have like a special kind of like a special ability, like a I forget what the words are now. I even talked about them in the thing, like a special kind of finishing move type thing. So yeah, that's just a little bit extra stuff. Let's have a little look and see what folks are seeing here. Right, let's have a little look. Small's in as well. Nice to see you, mate. Christian sharing the link for the Patreon. Thank you, Christian. Small's in. Really interested in the game. I haven't ordered it yet. Tried to order it at least 10 times. Always clicked away at the last minute. And yeah, everyone's Leisure Vault. Yeah, Paul saying. Yeah, I can never remember the name, mate. Lord Mins, I just realised what Baron Von Fancy Hat reminds me of. What's he saying? Nigel from the Wild Thornberries. He does have that look about him, mate. Yeah. Small's in there as well. TT Combat has some great MDF kits. Tony says, yes, it needs the Tim Curry voice. Small saying about the Battleground Fantasy, yeah, the Battle Systems Fantasy Town Kickstarter set as well. Yeah, they really do. They would fit it. But Battle Systems works great. VJ, good morning to you, sir, as well. Nice to see you. Said he was going to paint, but he's had his second vax. He's feeling knackered. Yeah, just take care of yourself, mate. Moose Eaton, hello fella. He's saying I'll probably be offline and on his way to work by the time Andy reads this, but just dropped in to say good day. Nice to see you, fella. James says this seems to pull the best from a board game with minis game structure. Yeah, it's just got something a little bit different about it. It's not just that like I roll my dice, you roll your dice. Like how many do you kind of sort of negate, if you like. There's just something a little bit different about it, and I've not seen it in other games. And also both players playing with the same deck has that almost like sort of card counting mechanic to it as well. And I love the little bit of bluffing between the cards. Christian sharing the links as well there as well for the merch. Mark saying strange. Hello, Mark Berclough, by the way. He's saying strangely was just looking at this morning at Moonstone. Looks like fun. Need to work out if I'll ever get to play it. Ludo. That was the name of the character that I couldn't remember. Thank you very much. Mark saying the Striga Anya is an amazing model. I quite like that box set actually. VG says, I'm not into cutesy minis, but some of these minis will have a little bit more creepy vibes. If you actually have a look on the website, mate, some of the painted ones as well, they've been painted in quite muted tones as well. They're not like kind of bright, colourful characters. And some of them are all quite kind of creepy looking as well. There is the odd kind of like funny, kind of quirky ones, but some of them are sort of quite creepy as well. Paul says, great explanation, Andy. Thank you very much, mate. It's never easy to kind of explain these games. It's sometimes a bit easier to kind of to demo them or show them, but hopefully it kind of at least gives you a little bit of sort of an idea about how the game plays. Ice Moon says, the goblin riding the lobster mini is absurdly cool. VG said, I'd give it a play if someone else had it, but frankly, it's not something I'm going to buy. I think it's it's like any game, mate, isn't it? Like, not every game's for every person, so that's why I do what I do. I just kind of try and show people the different things that are out there, really. Let's have a little look. What the Krusty Balboa? Yeah, I love that one as well. I saw that one for the first time today. I thought it was really cool. Ortega should say that the LE is an alternative sculpt over existing character to use in a new scenario. I didn't know that, mate. Warwick saying it looks fun. VJ saying seems like it has a bit more edge than Sylvanian Families with dice vibe of Bros and Badges. If I was kind of torn between the two, mate, like this, I would pick this one over Bros and Badges for that same reason. The little animals and stuff are really nicely sculpted for Bros and Badges, but I think I prefer the theme and the characters in this one. Ice Moon saying Ace presentation. Thank you very much, mate. VG says that was a mammoth clip, Andy. I think it was probably still about 40 minutes or something like that. It'll have been. Yeah, it will have been a long one. Paul says once I introduced Moonstone to our gaming group, they all jumped on board. It's a really fun game. I like the idea of it, mate. I like the fact you just kind of pick the models you like the look of. Busey says not sure about the Kickstarter though. I personally think the Kickstarter, if I'm being perfectly honest, I think the Kickstarter is great for people who already play the game. But if you're just getting started, I think I'd probably wait. I mean, what they're saying is the book's pretty much already written, so I think if you back it now, I think it's shipping in November. Let me just open my can of pop and get some pop because my coffee's gone cold. So I think it's going to ship in November, so you won't have long to wait for it. However, if you're just getting started, I think you're better off just buying the miniatures now. Buy a 2-player starter set and just kind of ease in and see if you like it. I do think that £650 kind of one of everything they sell, whilst I think it is a saving of about £200, it's still a lot of money if you've never played before to dive in at that point. So yeah, my honest opinion, I think if you play this game, you'll probably already know that this is a game for you, and you'll probably decide whether you want to get in and back the Kickstarter. If you've never played this before and you're just a little bit interested in it, I'd probably kind of avoid the Kickstarter, because there's no point waiting for shipping in November when you can go and buy the stuff that you want right now. Just go straight to Goblin King Games and buy the bits you want, or alternatively have a look in friendly local gaming stores as that as well. D'Anthony Robinson, nice to see you, mate. He says, nice to see you covering Moonstone. It's a great little game, one of my faves. And he says, also, Tom, the creator, is a super nice guy. I've not spoken to Tom before, to be fair. I've been speaking to the person who does all of the kind of like the background writing and the narrative stuff. But yeah, certainly from what I've seen online, from interviews and stuff, he does seem like a nice guy. Ortega says, I love playing Moonstone, some of the most fun I've had in the hobby. It's a game I think it's one of those games, a bit like Warcry, where I think the rules would just sit in my head. I wouldn't have to kind of try and remember how the game plays every time I played it. And actually, for doing stuff like sort of gameplay on the channel and stuff, those kind of games are really good. The fact that I'm only having to kind of keep an eye on a maximum of 6 models, all of the characters have their cards in front of me. I think it's quite a nice game actually, and it's something I'm seriously considering doing some kind of like sort of film some, I wouldn't call them battle reports as such, but some gameplay videos. Phil Wilkinson, hello to you, mate. He said it looks good. Pusey says a risk starter. I think the difference with a Kickstarter, mate, is it's a UK company, and if you're in the UK, shipping to the UK is only like I think it's like £6 shipping or something like that. Even maximum might be £6 shipping, even if you get the big pledge. I think it's relatively low risk. They've done a number of Kickstarters prior to that, but I think if you're overseas, I think God knows what happens with all that kind of stuff. I think it does have some information on the Kickstarter, so please do read it if you're interested. But I think it has some information on the Kickstarter about kind of like taxes already paid and all that kind of stuff. Daniel Engel says, good afternoon, evening, morning, fellow Blackjackers. Looking forward to catching the replay. Thank you very much, mate. Peter Cooman, nice to see you as well, back from work. Joby1 says, signature move. That's the one I couldn't think of the word. Yeah, it's the signature move that's on the back of the card, basically. Vijay says, bluffing can be fun, but very frustrating mechanic. It's used well in the Street Fighter minis game. I'm not familiar with the Street Fighter minis game. I mean, I've heard of it, and I remember it being on Kickstarter, but I don't know anything about the gameplay. I just think it's an unusual thing that you don't really see very much in miniature gaming. And when you're using a card deck, I think if you roll a dice, and there's a number. If you've got a card deck, cards have got 2 sides, and there's an opportunity to flip it over and to have hidden information to lie about what you've played. And I think it's vastly underutilized. Malifaux's already kind of not complex, but there's enough moving parts in there already without complicating it. But actually, I think Malifaux, if it could be fitted in without complicating it, I think having some kind of like hidden mechanic because of the cards would be a really interesting addition, I think. Barry Kleiber said, doggone it. I said I'm not getting into another game, but I'll watch. Well, you seem to have presented the game in an irresistible way. Curse you, Andy. Thank you and sorry, mate, at the same time. Bruce, hello, mate. Nice to see you. He says, I love Moonstone so much. I'm looking forward to watching the replay. So, yeah, you can certainly watch the replay, mate. I'll have a shortened version, which is not going to be that short, to be fair. But that just has the kind of the relevant information. And I upload that on the Tuesday. So you'll be able to just watch the kind of the core bit, if you like. Yoakum says, thanks for the walkthrough. Got to sleep exhausted after this weekend's downhill ride. And I saw the photos, mate. It looked like fun. Take care, buddy. Busey said the terrain Kickstarter put me off them, to be honest. Unless they're STLs, then I'm okay with that. Yeah, I know what you mean, mate. One bad Kickstarter experience can certainly put you off, that's for sure. Ice Moon says, good night to Yoakum there. Phil saying, hi Andy, hope you're well. I'm very well, mate. I hope you are too. Christian sharing a link there as well for Goblin Gaming. Thank you very much. I did check this evening. Goblin Gaming have a little bit, and I mean a little bit, of Moonstone stuff on there, so please do go and check it out. But if you're buying anything else, please consider shopping through my affiliate link. It costs you no more, but I make a small commission for sending you their way, and that helps kind of go towards the kind of like the costs of keeping this channel running every month. Peter says, I like the look of the minis, but I need to watch this again and maybe a game on YouTube to get a better idea. As I said, I think Tom's done a really good playthrough of it on the TNG video, and he kind of goes through some of the core stuff, and it's worth a watch if you're interested in finding out a little bit more. But it's honestly not too complicated. It's kind of difficult, I suppose, if I'm just kind of hammering information at you. But yeah, to be able to go back and watch this and pause it and absorb a bit, or even better, I would advise you, because I've basically presented it to you almost in the form that it's been laid out in the rulebook as well. Download the free rulebook. And even if you listen to this back a second time and read the rule book at the same time, I'm almost kind of taking you through it in those stages. Three Spires Gaming Josh says, I just ordered my copy. I'm sure you'll enjoy it, mate. Vijay saying postage and Brexit. Best own goal the UK's ever scored. Yeah. Adrian K says Woolsung is even better example for excellent card use. I know I've heard of Woolsung the game, but I must admit I've never played it, mate. And yeah, VJ is saying 100%. I never buy anything without watching at least a few bat reps. I'll be honest that I've watched some bat reps and they've actually put me off games because it's been a bit of a poor bat rep, to be honest, or the people haven't appeared like they're enjoying it, which sucks the fun out a little bit. So I would definitely watch a couple at least just to get some different opinions. Tannhauser Gate Studio says, as soon as possible I'll get some minis and create some themed displays, but at the minute I'm working on the limited edition D4 sets that glow in the dark. I saw those on the Kickstarter. They look pretty awesome. Are you making those, mate? Is that what they are? Ortega says, I have the pleasure of talking to Tom, the creator, and he was a big fan of Malifaux. I wonder if the card mechanics kind of influenced him a little bit. I mean, it's a completely different use of cards, but just the fact that they've used cards, did it kind of set a little trigger off in his brain to use something different? Look at me catching up with the chat for a change. I'm going to have that drink now because I don't think I ever had a drink when I opened it. So yeah. Feel free to keep chatting about Moonstone, folks. If there's more questions you have, if you've got anything specific you want to ask, please do pop them questions in the chat. If you want to talk about something completely different, if you want to talk about a different game, if you want to talk about some board games you've been playing, I've played loads of board games this weekend. Yeah, we can have a chat about anything you want. That's the beauty of these live streams. Excuse me while I have a drink. Oh, that's very gassy. So yeah, that's Moonstone, folks. Like I say, the Kickstarter's there. Go over and check it out. Have a look. I'm not recommending that anybody buys it. I'm not trying to sell it to you. I'm just kind of trying to make you aware that it's out there. So yeah, talking of board games, Christian and I went to a board gaming cafe this weekend, and Christian asked the guy who was running the board gaming cafe, a guy called Drew. He said, basically, can you recommend a really kind of unusual game that you maybe don't often get asked for, or is kind of like a love it, hate it type thing? So Drew kind of came down with 3 different options for us, and the one that we chose of the 3 options was the Thunderbirds game, which is made by Matt Leacock. So you might know Matt Leacock, who made the Pandemic board game. Excuse me. And Thunderbirds felt like a Pandemic variant. And I'll be completely honest, I have really enjoyed it. It was a game I'd kind of... I'm not a big fan of Thunderbirds. I can't say I've really ever watched it. But I enjoyed it, and I can see... I mean, I'm aware of Thunderbirds, as in its popular culture, and I know what it's about. And I can see where the theme's been stuck to quite closely. It was quite interesting. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. And we just managed to win the game. So that was quite good. So we had a game of that. We had about half an hour left, so we kind of just said, look, can you just give us a quick game to play? So we played Santorini, which I really enjoyed as well. It's a very kind of chess-like game, really, really quick to learn to play. We were taught how to play it in about 2 minutes. Christian and I really enjoyed it as well and played about 3 games of it. So much so that when I got home, I ordered it on Amazon, and me and my wife played a few games of it last night as well. So I've really enjoyed playing Santorini. And then on Sunday, we played Victorian Masterminds, which is a game where basically you are trying to... It's a bit of an engine builder where you're trying to build sort of doomsday machines and take over the world, which is quite fun. So we played that. And then afterwards, we played Tribes, which is a little bit like you're basically trying to expand your land, sort of build your tribes up bigger, and work your way up through the different ages to try and basically you gain experience points as you go, and the winner at the end is whoever has the most experience points, which was a nice game. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. And then, like I say, I played Santorini again last night with my wife. So yeah, I've had a right old weekend of playing board games. I've really enjoyed it. VJ saying he's opted for couch and iPad instead of the painting table. If I drift off, just port me. Mark says, where is the link for the rules for Moonstone? Let me see if I can find you a link for them, mate. And I will post them in the chat-a-rooney. Let me just go back a second. So if we go to... you need to go to Moonstone, the game. Then go to resources at the top. And I'll tell you what, if I put this in the chat, I'm sure by the time I get there somebody else will have done it, but There you go. I've put the link in the chat there. If you click on that, and that shows you where all the stat cards are. There's even some, like, you know, the little cutout sort of standees as well that you can use just to try the game out. Lord Main says, I actually had a game with a friend and we both enjoyed it. I painted up the gnomes, but have the humans to paint at some point. Yeah, they're really cool, mate. I really like them. Mark says, yeah, worth looking at before I buy. 100%, mate. Yeah, like I say, if you even watch this back a second time and read the rules and then watch this back a second time, it might all just help kind of clear it up as well. Tony Howell says, yeah, I wasn't a dirty heathen and had a bacon butty with ketchup this morning. Disgusting, mate. Honestly, I thought we were friends. I thought I could trust you. Bobby says, I found the models very fun to paint with a good level of detail. I sent you some pics, Andy. Thank you, mate. I look forward to checking them out. I'm a big fan of your painting, mate, so I'm always interested to see you painting different stuff. I know you paint a lot of 40k stuff, but it's nice to see the other stuff you paint as well. Paul says, Thunderbird's game is amazing. Yeah, it's not something I would have ever picked up myself. Like I say, I'm not like a Thunderbirds fan or anything like that, but the way the game plays is really, really clever. Small said played Thunderbird's board game when it came out. Yeah, like I say, that was the beauty about going to a board game cafe, because obviously I've got plenty of games at home that we could have just stopped in and played. But it was nice to play something neither of us had played before, and just have somebody else recommend us a game, and we sat and had a milkshake and sat and kind of played games for a couple of hours. I definitely recommend it. So if you are in and around the Northeast, I would 100% recommend Meeple Perk, the board game cafe in Newcastle City Centre. Drew and I think it's Rhiannon, who own and run the place, were super friendly, really, really helpful. The milkshakes were lovely. They had some fantastic looking cakes on display that we didn't try, unfortunately, because we were too busy playing games. But they have a fantastic library of games. Drew seems really knowledgeable, always happy to recommend stuff. So yeah, I mean, I'm not being, this is not a sponsored post or anything stupid like that. I just had a really good time, and I'll definitely be going back. So yeah, just check them out if you're in and around Newcastle and you're looking for something to do for a few hours. Check out the board game and cafe at Meeple Perk. BG says, I think if I could have any shop front style business, I'd like a board game cafe. Yeah, me too, mate. I've seen some really nice looking ones online. This one in Newcastle is lovely, but it's not huge. I've seen some of them that have obviously been open for years and they've expanded and grown and things over time. And some of them are like sort of like fancy restaurants almost. Barry Clever says the limited size of Moonstone is really appealing, especially accommodating up to 4 players. Painting 100 minis is not something that interests me. Yeah, the beauty with it is, mate, as well, what I thought was really special is, so say you want to paint enough minis for 2 people to play. You paint like, so, well, you can just use the 8 minis from the starter set, but if you wanted to play like the sort of the full recommended game, you paint up 12 miniatures and 2 players use 6 each. And then all of a sudden somebody says, oh, can I join in? You just go, oh yeah, of course we'll just play with 4 miniatures each now. And then somebody says, oh well, can I join in as well? Make it 4 players. You just divide them up and you just play with 3 miniatures each. Like it's not like you have to keep buying more miniatures for more people to play. The amount of miniatures almost dictates that how long the game will take, and just having more players is just giving you more to control. And then obviously what you're doing is you're all competing against each other to try and get these Moonstones. So I think it's a fantastic way that they've incorporated multiplayer into a skirmish game. You don't see that very often. It always feels a bit tagged on, or it always just feels like a 2v2 as opposed to a 4-player. Small says, me and my wife played Glenmore 2 Chronicles. Glenmore 2 Chronicles. I don't know what that is. We like games that use tiles. I don't know whether you've typed that wrong, mate. I'm not really sure what that game is. Peter says, no board games yet. Bought Assassin's Creed Odyssey for $5. Been busy with that. I haven't played video games in forever, mate. Ice Moon says, 3 mates and I just finished up July of Pandemic Legacy Season 2. Me and my wife are getting back into Pandemic as well. So we played Pandemic Legacy Season 1 all the way through. We started to play Season 2 and kind of had that game where you test the rules out to make sure you know how it plays. And then went, right, we'll do that. And then never got back to it. And then went, right, let's start it again. Let's play that game so we can work out the first bit where you work out how it works again. Played that one and then never went back to it. So I've got Season 2 to play, but we need to kind of sort of give it a real go at it. And it's a kind of game my wife loves. Like I said to Chrissy when we played Santorini, I know for a fact Lou would love this because she would rather play a game that lasts 15 minutes, she'd rather play that like 4 times back to back than play a game that lasts an hour. And she likes co-op games, so that's where sort of Pandemic Legacy comes in as well. She really likes the kind of that co-op nature of it as well. Ice Moon, oh yeah, sorry, just that. Mark says, I was stuck in the shop and couldn't see it. Thanks. No worries, mate. Yeah, you got to go back to their website, mate. Lord Maiden says, yeah, the Thunderbirds was a great game. There's an expansion that allows a player to play as the Hood. Is there? I didn't know that, mate. Scott Goulet says, Thunderbirds is a pick up and deliver logistics version of Pandemic. I watched the show when I was about 10 and I love the game. Yeah, I mean, it feels like Pandemic. Really does kind of, you can see where it's kind of the feel of it, of the way you put the Hood cards in, like kind of interspersed through the deck and stuff. And the kind of, that mechanic of sort of racing along to the end point before the sort of before you, like the Hood destroying the ability, the events before you get them completed, if you like. It's definitely got that Pandemic feel. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Josh Price says, it's funny you did this show tonight. I was showing my wife Moonstone over the weekend. Yeah, I'd mentioned on Wednesday I was going to do Moonstone tonight. So yeah, there you go. It's like the stars have aligned, mate. I think it's the kind of game, I was even explaining it to my wife today, and she really liked the idea of that kind of bluffing mechanic. I don't think she's a huge fan of kind of like dice games, really. So yeah, I think even she would enjoy this one. Scott Longer says, busy building up his sunken sand Catarino terrain. Got 8 out of the 10 buildings built and then some paint on them. Flying, mate. Says, any pointers for colours for buildings and painting MDF buildings? I would get a spray can, mate, and just spray them at a kind of like to prime them. Basically, don't worry too much about using kind of anything to kind of stop the paint soaking into the MDF. Just get the cheapest spray cans you can and just give them a good coat. That would be my tip, mate. Dry brushing doesn't really work, but like, you know, like Zenithal Prime, like sort of prime it with a spray can of one colour. So let's just say you want to do them kind of grey. Spray them with a black can and then come at them from a bit of an angle and like dust them with a grey one or something. That works better than trying to dry brush them and is way faster as well. Tony says, finish painting Dr. McMorning, now to base him up. I really like the Dr. McMorning you've painted, mate. Yeah, it was awesome. Vijay saying, there's a great board game cafe in Melbourne, but I think the rent is too high in Sydney for a one in the CBD. CBD. I don't know what that is. Opening one down the coast will be a non-starter. Too many cafes already. Yeah, there is that kind of thing. I mean, it's where I live, sort of like, there's a few nice locations where I think a board game cafe would do really well. But we were just talking about this actually, like Christian and I at the weekend. I don't know how they make their money, because it's not that big that you have people coming in all the time just for coffees and stuff. There wasn't like many people coming in for takeaway coffees and stuff while we were there. So I think I would really have to look at it as a business plan before I ever got any further than just considering it. Christian sharing the link there as well for Amazon. And yeah, don't forget, if you're shopping during Prime Day, so Prime Days, the 21st and the 22nd of June, if you shop through my link, then you will obviously get all those Prime Day deals, and I make a small commission. So if you click or if you copy the link that Christian's got there and save it as a bookmark, and remember to shop through that rather than Googling Amazon each time, it really helps me out. It really helps me to keep this channel going as my full-time job. All those little bits of kind of like making 50 pence here and a pound there, you'd be surprised how they mount up when people use the link. So thank you very much. Mark says, have you tried Marvel Champions? A great co-op game. I haven't tried Marvel Champions, mate. That's the card game, isn't it? I've not tried that, mate. Vijay says, never gotten the love of Thunderbirds. Must be a generation thing. Now, if someone did a Team America game on the other hand, yeah, I've never been in love with kind of things like Thunderbirds or Captain Scarlet, or what was the other one as well? There was another one. I forget what it was called now, but there was another one of those. Stingray, that's the one I was trying to think of. Yeah, it was never my bag either. Vijay says, Central Business District. Ah, there you go. I know what it means. Tony says, layered washers work for weathering, but basic is good. Scott says, that's my plan. Yeah, doing that. Stingray, that was the one I was thinking of, yeah. Cedar Kuru, is it Kwan? Stingray, yeah. Thank you very much, mate, for helping out there. It sprung to mind just before I think you all posted it. Ice Moon says, Matt Stone and Trey Parker are huge board game aficionados. They are. I remember seeing one of the episodes of South Park where they had loads of board games in the background, and I think Core Space was one of the ones that was there, actually, if I remember. Mark says, we'll have to try and get up to you this year for a few games. Yeah, 100%, mate. We were just talking at the weekend as well about having a weekender or sort of some kind of get together. I think for the first one, I'm going to keep it relatively small. And when I say small, maybe like sort of 20 people or so. And I'm probably going to do it locally up here, so it's easier for me to organise. So yeah, I need to get my thinking cap on now and start looking for a location, but I've got a couple in mind. Michael Cowan says, Joe 90. I always forget Joe 90, mate. Was Joe 90 the same era, or was it a bit later? I also remember, what was the other one called? Terrorhawks as well, which wasn't kind of puppets like that, but it had a similar kind of feel to it. But Terrorhawks I actually quite liked. Scott Longworth, Team America. Yeah, I'm not going to say it. So yeah, it was nice to play some board games at the weekend. There's something quite satisfying about a board game where you can just kind of open it up, play it, and put it away again without feeling the need to I need to buy 25 expansions and I should really buy the extra bits that's come out, and I should also paint all these miniatures, and I should also do this, that, and the other. It's quite nice having that self-contained kind of gaming experience. Tasty Brain Drain says, really, I didn't know about Stone and Parker. That's really cool. Yeah, there's an image somewhere of basically, I can't remember which episode it was, but there's an image doing the rounds online, and it's got like loads of board games on like shelves in the background. And yeah, Core Space by Battle Systems was one of the ones that was on there. It was amazing to see it, because it's not like it was like all the big name games. It's not like it was all these big names like Monopoly and Cluedo, or Clue for the Americans. Like that, to get that reference that everybody would know. It was obviously some stuff that they really liked. Moxie, if I can, I'll be there. I missed all the weekenders due to family commitments. Yeah, I'll obviously not. I'll try and give people a bit of notice in advance, mate. I won't kind of like sort of go right, it's next week kind of thing. But yeah, we'll have a look, mate, and we'll see what I can arrange. I want to try and get like a nice location. I don't want it being like a grotty shed somewhere. So yeah, we'll try and get a bit of a nice location as long as it's affordable as well. But it also needs to be good for traveling, and it needs to be good for somewhere to stay as well. Vijay says he compared Marvel Crisis Protocol, Champions, and United. Very different games, but United came out on top for me. I've actually just picked up Marvel Crisis Protocol purely for myself. I'm not planning on doing any content on it, just for my own little kind of hobby in the background, really. There's a nice little local scene seems to have sprung up around it. Seems really popular at the moment, so I know it's something I can kind of get some games in, pretty regularly as well. Christian saying, time to hit the hay. Thanks for the stream and had an awesome weekend. Take care, mate. Have a good day at work, and I will speak to you probably Thursday for D&D, mate. Thank you very much. Ice Moon says he also kind of spoofed board game breakfast on an episode of South Park. Oh, did they? John Estel says, evening all. What have I missed? What are we talking about bacon yet? There was a brief bacon chat, mate. Tony Howell shocked us all by saying he put ketchup on his bacon, and like a little bit of me died, I'll be honest. There was a little part of me died inside when I heard he had ketchup. Small saying good night as well. Yeah. Scott says, Andy, look into Carnival. Yeah, I will do at some point, mate. There's like 10 million miniatures games, and I've probably got about 5 million of them at the moment, so I'm kind of weighing up my options at the minute. But yeah, seeing we are now. Yeah. So yeah, plenty on the go at the minute, that's for sure. Barry's asking, if anyone's played Dune board game by Gale Force 9? I'll be honest, I've never even seen the film Dune. I think I started watching it many years ago. It didn't really grab me like sort of straight out of the gates, if you like. And I saw how long it was on for, and I just thought, nah, I'm not going to bother. And then I've never really got back to it. So yeah, it's not, like the theme, for example, isn't something that would drag me in. But no, I've never played it, mate. Scott said it's basically a tabletop version of Assassin's Creed. I might need to look into that a little bit more. That's so you know what it is, mate? Why don't they just write that on the box? They would sell so many more copies of that. Small says, I played Dune Imperium. Is Dune Imperium like a Dune version of Twilight Imperium? I'm not sure if that's what it is, yeah. Vijay saying, yeah, the whole Dune thing isn't my jam either. I think there's loads of stuff that, like, sort of as a geek you're supposed to instantly like. I think I must be just a part-time geek because I'm not a massive fan of like Lord of the Rings and stuff. I've never watched Star Trek, I've never watched Doctor Who, I've never watched Dune. I mean, I like my geeky stuff, and I love my kind of like Marvel stuff and DC stuff and comic books and the movies. I'm a big Star Wars fan. Like, I've obviously got some stuff that I like, but yeah, some of it just I watch it and I think, what's all the fuss about? I'm not really sure. Ortega says ketchup is best for bacon sandwiches. You're wrong, mate. It's brown sauce all day, every day. Ketchup's for sausage sandwiches. Icemoon says the book is amazing. Do you know what it is though? Like, watching a bit of the film really just did not make me want to read the book either. Yeah, small saying it's not the same game as the Gale Force one. Vision says woeful movie, book looks too long. Oh, VG, I think we should start a Grumpy Old Men podcast because I think we kind of agree on a load of stuff, but I think we just like, no, look shit. We need to do it ourselves. Where are we up to here? Barry says the film, not so much. The book, good but long. The Iron Maiden song, 5 stars. I like your thinking, Barry, as well. Is it C there as well? Preferred the book. Scott saying, Andy, fancy me a Geek Retreat for a game of Rumble Slam. Geek Retreat? Where's Geek Retreat, mate? Is that the one in town? Is it over the road from... what's it called? Is Battle Bunker not better for you, mate? Are you not Sunderland way? Ice Moon says, I'm also excited to see what Villeneuve does with it. Oh yeah, that's the new one that's coming, isn't it? Mark says, I played the original Dune game on PC, like a Command and Conquer precursor. Do you know what I had a weird dream the other night, and I never remember dreams. I'll be honest, I'm one of these people that I know I'm having a dream. Like, I'll wake up in the morning and think, oh, like I was dreaming about something, but I can never ever remember my dreams. So I couldn't. There's no point me going to a dream expert to analyze them because I can never remember what I was dreaming about. But randomly the other day I had a dream and I remembered it when I woke up. And in that dream I was playing the old Blade Runner PC game, which I think was by Westwood Studios? I think it was. It was kind of like a point and click adventure type thing, and its graphics were pretty special for its time, and it really made me want to kind of go back and play it again randomly. I don't know why. I can't even remember it being a good game, but it made me really want to go back and play that Blade Runner game. Small says the one I played is worker placement and card game. Scott says no, got to be red sauce or barbecue. Never, honestly, you're all heathens, all of you. Michael says English mustard on bacon sandwich. Oh, I don't actually like mustard, mate, if I'm honest. Yeah. Brown sauce, if out and about. See, Michael, you're more on my wavelength. Brown sauce on bacon for the win. Yeah. Brown sauce on sausage. Honestly, Tony, you've got it wrong. Paul says the Dune book was really good. It surprised me. I struggled to get into the sequels. I didn't even know there was sequels, mate, if I'm honest. I thought the first one was long enough to make up for it not having sequels. Paul says that, Peterson, Dune series of books very good. The video game not so much. I quite like the film, but predictable books to film fanfare. Scott's Johnson, ketchup is for kids. Adults have brown sauce of everything, including cereal. There you go, John. Man of the people. I like it. Paul says, if you like 40k, the new Dune film is probably worth a watch, though, because Dune is one of the major influences for 40k. Yeah, I've read that somewhere, actually. I think I read something about the original Starship Troopers story as well, which was obviously written years before the film, and the film doesn't really have a lot in common with it. I think that was also quite a big influence. Marcus says, I might be 34, but I've been accused of being a grumpy old man. I think I've been accused of being a grumpy old man since I was a kid. Where was this one? Scott says, I'm only a few miles from Newcastle, mate, but either is easy for me. Just come here then instead, mate. It's not like I don't have the space to play the game, mate. Save us both travelling into town. Paul says, June video game was okay. I never really enjoyed the Command and Conquer games. Tony says, Nathan, Carlsberg on my cornflakes. Carlsberg on my cornflakes. I remember that now. Ortega says, be fair, I've not found a food. SketchUp doesn't... SketchUp. My little boy loves his bit of ketchup. Vijay says, yeah, people can be a bit gatekeeper if you don't enjoy the same authors and medias of them. Like, if you haven't read Dune, you can't like sci-fi. If you haven't read Tolkien, you can't enjoy fantasy. Yeah, I just like... there are certain things where people will... Like when I said originally that I'd never watched the Lord of the Rings films, I mean, I have since watched them now because I felt blackmailed into it. And I'm still not impressed by them, if I'm honest. But I think it's because I watched them so much later, they've kind of dated, and I haven't like got the old warm feelings from when they first came out. But yeah, there is this kind of thing. Well, like, what do you mean? What do you mean you've not watched like Lord of the Rings? Like, it's only like one of the biggest films of one of the biggest trilogies or sagas ever. Why have you not watched it? It's like, it just didn't interest me. Damn kids need to stay off my lawn. Peter says 300 miles for a board game or two. Yes, I'm in. More than two, mate. I'll make a weekend of it. More than two. Maple syrup. Now, maple syrup on bacon. Now you're talking. That's my weakness when I go to the States, mate. I do like waffles, bacon on the waffles, maple syrup on the bacon. That's my kind of like, that's my holiday jam. I love that. I don't eat it at home. I would be about 50 stone if I did. But yeah, I do eat it on holiday. I love it on holiday. Vijay says 100% podcasting. We'd be like Statler and Waldorf of the gaming scene. Small says Blade Runner developed by Westwood Studios and published by Virgin Interactive. That's the one, mate. I don't know why I had a dream with that in it the other day. I woke up and it was like clear as day. I even remembered the little bit walking out to like the police car on the roof and getting in it and taking it. I remembered the dream perfectly. Tiberius says chippy sauce. Chippy sauce? What's chippy sauce, mate? Is that vinegar? Rob Gates says every time the bacon sandwich chat comes up, the missus always walks in. I'm getting a puzzled look. We haven't talked about it for weeks either. That's the thing. I haven't talked about it for weeks. Scott's saying right when. Well, let's sort it out, mate. Let's sort it out, buddy. Busey, bacon, mustard, and gravy in a crusty pot. Mustard. Marcus says Dune, Starship Troopers, Star Wars, and a few others are what inspired 40k. Yeah. Barry says Robert Henlon book Starship Troopers is fantastic. The movie was pretty much a I can't even pronounce that, propaganda film. The song by Yes, 5 stars. I really like the Starship Troopers film, but I do quite like Paul Verhoeven. I'm a big fan of the original RoboCop as well, and I kind of like that film. But I am fully aware it's pretty much not much to do with the book, if I'm honest. Tony says I miss the old roast beef and gravy stutty. Oh, I remember having those at like a festival or something like that. Or, you know, if you go like a food festival, they always have kind of like the big, like sort of the big vans with the roast meat and stuff like that. Oh, nice. Ortega says you don't like Command and Conquer and call us heathens. I never enjoyed those real-time strategy games, mate. I've got such a short attention span. I think I was never into those games. Yeah, Paul saying there, the Starship Troopers film, while not great interpretation of the book, is a great work of political satire. Yeah, I'm a big fan of it. I like it as well. 2000 AD as well for 40k. Scott says now a RoboCop game would be amazing. I really enjoyed the RoboCop video games when I was a kid. I used to enjoy playing that on my Spectrum. Yes, VJ, before you get on the Spectrum chat. But yeah, I'm surprised you've not seen. Well, I guess the problem with the RoboCop miniatures game would be it would be like a limited sort of opponents to fight against. It would either would RoboCop be controlled by the game? I don't know. I'll tell you what, I can hear my lens trying to adjust itself there. If I just do this, will it focus? I think sometimes it jams a bit. I'm in focus, so I'm not going to worry about it. Would you like to know more? I'll buy that for $1. VG says, Stranger in a Strange Land is my favourite Heinlein book. Isn't Stranger in a Strange Land a Iron Maiden song as well? Do I remember that right? VG says, John's saying there, I had a great game of Kings of War tonight. First time out with the Goblins, an absolute bloodbath. Was that a good bloodbath that you won, or a bad bloodbath that you all died, mate? VG saying, agreed on RTS games. Yeah, they've never been my bag, mate. I've always been more like FIFA games, Street Fighter games. I like stuff with a bit of a story, so I'll play things like what's it called again? Like the Uncharted series, that type of thing, Tomb Raider, that kind of stuff. But I've never been into those real-time strategy stuff. Yeah, RoboCop miniatures. Mark says, a couple of years ago we had one-time food festival called Bacon Fest. Never thought bacon soda would actually exist. Yeah, you can get like bacon-flavoured beers and stuff, I think I've seen. Yeah, RoboCop game, pretty much just cyberpunk. I'm surprised, yeah. It'd be nice to see him come in as a character in another game. Play against Varangar, John. Ah, nice one. VG says, what? Who mentioned the substandard spectrum? Scott says, even a Running Man game. Yeah, do you know what it is? A Running Man game I could see. I think Running Man would probably be a good sort of game for... Oh, that's kind of got a bit close to my mouth there. Running Man would probably be a good game for the 7 TV rules. I think it would probably work well in that. The Running Man book is actually really good as well, and it's a bit different to the movie as well. So in the movie, where obviously he's he's the butcher of Bakersfield, isn't he? Where he's the soldier who refuses to shoot. In the book, he's basically like a family guy, like a dad who's absolutely skint, like needs money for his family, and that's why he goes into this game show basically. He's not like forced into it. He does it because he needs the money to kind of feed his family, and it gives a very different kind of like tone to the story. The rest of the story is quite similar, but yeah, it just gives a bit of a different tone. I assume the fact that when Schwarzenegger got involved, it was like, yeah, he's a big buff guy. We're not going to make him just like somebody's dad. We're going to make him like a soldier or something. Where are we up to here? Mark Bearcloth. Says, have you watched the Army of the Dead? Yes, I have, mate. I really enjoyed it, actually. Says, Simon has the rights for it, part of the Zombicide range. I saw that, mate. They basically announced it the day I think the movie came out, I think. So, or just before the movie came out. I still don't have a Zombicide game yet, and I keep thinking of picking one up, but there's so many different ones. I think I don't want to have them all. I think one version of Zombicide will be good enough, so I keep chopping and changing my mind. Do I go with like Black Plague? Do I go with Zombicide 2nd edition? Do I maybe pick up the Green Horde one instead? I quite like the look of the Western one that was out recently, and then I saw the Army of the Dead one. It was like, oh well, I quite like the theme of that. I do kind of like. I think that's why I've not picked one up, is because there's too much choice. Michael says, used to go to a Cumberland Sausage Festival. Let's just say it's since been renamed. There used to be a Chili and Cider Festival local to me as well, which I think was quite popular. Baking soda, but not baking soda. Where are we up to here? Tony says, bacon butty vendors are missing a trick. They should all be over beer festivals. VG says, have you played 7TV, Andy? I'd love to see some coverage of that. I'm very interested on the edge of picking up. I had a demo of it a long time ago at a convention thing, and it kind of is miniature agnostic in some respect, because it's basically you're playing a TV show basically, and you're recording the film, so it fits a lot of different kind of classic TV themes. If I'm perfectly honest, it was so long ago I don't remember the kind of like the crux of it. But it's something I probably would potentially go back and revisit now. I remember thinking it was okay. I don't remember hating it, that's for sure. Marcus is saying, just go with the base game. Which one though, mate? Because the second version of it, or the original one, because I think like the Black Plague fixed a lot of the issues from the first Zombicide game, and subsequent ones tend to be a little bit better. And then obviously they've got a 2nd edition version of the first one, which then fixes some of them issues as well. So I don't know, I'm kind of confused now. Small says, I like the movie Army of the Dead as well, despite a lot of people said it was bad. Yeah, I was the same, mate, as well. I heard loads of kind of, like, I read loads of complaints about it very briefly before I watched it, saying that they were disappointed with it and stuff. And then I read loads more afterwards, after I'd watched it, and I knew at that point I'd enjoyed it. Basically picking it apart and saying this was awful and that was awful, and it's all style over substance and blah, blah, blah. But I really enjoyed it. I've also since watched a video which basically explains loads of stuff that's kind of like little hidden Easter eggs all the way through it, which hint at there's an animated series coming based upon what happens prior to Army of the Dead, and that there's obviously a potential kind of sequel or whatever, like being mooted as well. But some of those little kind of Easter egg bits that's dropped into it, I tell you what, it makes it look a lot deeper than you'd kind of on first inspection that you'd think is there actually. So I think there's been some seeds planted, so other stuff will come back and revisit it, and it'll all link together, and you'll just go, oh no, that was bloody clever kind of thing. But I think at the minute people are just saying, oh, there's so many loose threads, it's stupid. I think some of these loose threads are kind of cleverer than they first appear. Scott says, question for everyone in the chat. If you could recreate your own game based off a movie, what would you create and why? I'd love to create, I've said this before in a live stream, I would love to create Cabin in the Woods game. So one where basically you've got like the kind of the teenagers in the cabin and different monsters are coming up to kind of come and fight them and stuff. Sorry if I've just spoiled the plot for you, by the way. Anybody that hasn't seen it, I'd love to do a Cabin in the Woods game, and I think the fact that you could have so many different monsters coming through would give loads of kind of ability to kind of keep the game expanding and do different stuff with it. Mark says, I'll bring up my Black Plague version for you to try. They're great, but you only need one. That's kind of where my impression is. I only need one. I just don't know which one I need, I think. John says, one version of Zombicide to rule them all in the darkness to bind them. Let's have a look. Where are we up to? Paul says, night all, thanks for the Moonstones and love. Really enjoyed it. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate you coming in as well, mate. So yeah, thanks, buddy. Mass Effect. That's a good show, mate, as well. Mass Effect would be a good game. Vigi says, if you like it and it's miniature agnostic, you might unrustle some jimmies. I'm not even against those games. I was trying to make a different point. Peter says, many films are inspired by earlier films. I think every film is inspired by something else. Isn't there this thing that there only 5 stories? There's only 5 stories that can ever be told or something like that. And every film and every book is a variation on these 5 stories. I'm going to have to Google it now. I'm sure it's just 5 stories. It's either 5 or 7, I can't remember. Or 7. There's only 7, so there's 7 basic plots, right? So I'll tell you. So there is overcoming the monster. The definition is the protagonist sets out to defeat an antagonistic force, often evil, which threatens the protagonist and or protagonist's homeland. So things that would fall into this are things like Beowulf, Dracula, War of the Worlds, The Guns of Navarone, Seven Samurai, James Bond, Jaws, Star Wars. Then there's the rags to riches stories. Definition is the poor protagonist acquires power, wealth, and or a mate, loses it all and gains it back, growing as a person as a result. So things like Cinderella, Aladdin, the Brewster's Millions, The Jerk, that sort of stuff. The next one is The Quest. So the protagonist and companion set out to acquire an important object to get to a location. They face temptations and other obstacles along the way. So things like The Lord of the Rings, King Solomon's Mines, Watership Down, The Lightning Thief, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. There's The Voyage and Return, which the protagonist goes to a strange land and after overcoming the threats it poses or learning important lessons unique to that location, they return with experience. So things like Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, The Time Machine, Peter Rabbit, The Hobbit, Gone with the Wind, The Lion King, Back to the Future, Coming to America. Then there's comedy, which is light and humorous character with a happy or cheerful ending, a dramatic work in which the central motif is the triumph over adverse circumstances, resulting in a successful or happy conclusion. Things like Bridget Jones' Diary, Sliding Doors, 4 Weddings and a Funeral, The Big Lebowski. Then there's tragedy. The protagonist is a hero with a major character flaw and great mistake, which is ultimately their undoing. Their unfortunate end evokes pity and their folly and the fall of a fundamentally good character. So you've got Citizen Kane, Julius Caesar, Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet, The Great Gatsby, and the last one is Rebirth. An event forces the main character to change their ways and often become a better individual. So Beauty and the Beast, The Snow Queen, A Christmas Carol, The Secret Garden, Groundhog Day. So essentially there are only 7 different basic plots, and every film, every book, every story is written on one of those basic plots, and everything will influence something else. That's essentially what they say, I think. VGC untwist some niggas. Ice Moon says, if you enjoy something, then what other people think shouldn't matter. Yeah. Tony says, I like the Moonstone minis. Don't play games, just paint and hobby, but I think they're fab minis. Yeah, I think you'd love painting them. I think it's your kind of sort of quirky fantasy stuff that you'd enjoy, mate, I think. Paul said he's played a Salute a few years ago. Yeah, I think I might have played a Salute as well, mate, to be fair. Scott says, so kind of dog soldiers. Yeah, kind of. VG says, nice one, Paul. Not sure that scenario would hook me, but trying out new mechanics is always interesting. Army of Darkness game will be fun. Yeah, I'm surprised we haven't seen more of that stuff. Tannhauser Gate Studios says, Cabin in the Woods. There's a similar one that's named Fearsome Wilderness with mythical folklore creatures. I'll have to check that out. I've never heard of that, mate. Michael Cowan says, Gladiator starter set could be an arena battle between a few minis right up to an army battle. Oh, yeah, I could see that as well, mate. Small says, I'm keeping Black Plague Zombicide, the best version I've played, and I've painted it all. I've heard Black Plague is the best version, if I'm honest. But I must admit that was prior to the new Wild West one coming out and the new 2nd edition one, so I'm not sure. Silent Hill minis. Yeah, I'll be all over that one as well, mate. And Mark's saying he's got the Wolfsburg one. Tempted with the Western version. I think, who was it? Rob Brown, I think, bought the Western one. VG says, I was listening to Paint Bravely on my run this morning, and they were talking about how Wild West was ruined by the giant metal spider. And I'm thinking that the only good part of Wild West was the spider. Again, I'm one of these people that actually doesn't mind Wild West. Yes, it was stupid, but actually I don't mind it. It's a popcorn film. I kind of switched my brain off. I actually don't mind it. I thought it was all right. It's not going to hit my top 10 favorite films ever, but it's a good switch your brain off film. Yeah, I know you're not a huge fan of Wild West, me, are you? Mark says Monster Slaughter board game is like Cabin in the Woods. I've not heard of that either, mate. Either. There you go. I'm not exactly coming up with exactly. So this is the point. I've not heard of any of them games, and I still like that's what I'm influenced by. Peter says, although I like Western themes, most sci-fi is Western in space. There's definitely a sort of. I mean, you've obviously got the very obvious Western in space, which is like kind of like Firefly and stuff like that. But yeah, essentially, like Star Wars is a Western. John said he'd buy the Gladiator game. Mark says there's an 8th type of story, and there's the journey where the story is not really about the characters directly, but the group and the places they've been and where they are going. I'd have to go back and look at the other ones, mate, and see how they fit into that one. But so how we doing? How we doing for time? How we doing for people? We're kind of getting ready to wrap up. I think we're getting to that point now. So what I will say is, and thank you very much, folks. It's been an awesome night. Sorry that the stream dipped out just before we started doing the main topic. I've no idea why the internet decided to die off. It was absolutely fine on my laptop, but on my PC, it just decided to kind of spit it out. James is just saying he's nodded off in the office. VG says there's a board game, my favourite movie, Kubrick's The Shining, but it looks a bit average. I think unfortunately when they pay for the license, they normally can't afford to pay decent board game designers, and when it comes with a lot of them stuff. Tasty Brain Drink says, wow, someone else who like Wild West. I honestly think it's alright. Paul says there's a new plot type now, invented in 2017. It's called the Unwanted Surprise. It makes virtually no sense, but your expectations are subverted. An example would be The Last Jedi. Small says, no, Firefly is a space western. Yeah, space western. It's still a western in space. The journey is the hardest story to tell. And Tony says, I love Wild Wild West. It was forgettable bubblegum, but I really like the cyberpunk thing. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm gonna watch it again at some point. I quite enjoyed it as well. But maybe we're all a bit weird together. So anyway, on that, I'm going to wrap it all up now. Thank you, yes, Steampunk mate, not cyberpunk. Thank you very much, everyone, for being in tonight. If anybody isn't a subscriber, please do consider clicking the subscribe button. If you haven't given it a thumbs up yet, please give the video a thumbs up. It helps kind of get the video out to more people and makes more people aware of the channel and helps me kind of keep the lights on. And if you're not already a Patreon subscriber and you would like to kind of help the running of the channel, this is what I do full time. That's how basically how I fund this is through the generosity of Patreons and sort of the advertising and things on these on the like what's it called, like the YouTube adverts and stuff like that. Please do check out the Patreon. It's patreon.com/BlackJack Legacy. So thank you very much, folks. I'll see you on Wednesday for the hobby hangout. Take care and see you then. Bye now. Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And if you did, why not consider clicking on the suggested video below to see more of the work that I've done. If you'd like to support the long-term sustainability of this channel, why not consider checking out my Patreon, where you can pledge and support from as little as $2 a month. And there is lots of different tiers and bonuses, which will give you access to a private Discord server. It will give you free t-shirts, free mugs, a podcast every month, and a number of other things, including getting your name at the end of every video, like these awesome folks who already support me now.